Everyone went to the cage to see the baby pigeons. Yep, 2 living, chirping, featherless, and pretty ugly-looking little pigeons sat in a nest. The family stayed well back to avoid any problems. However, sometimes a baby was pecked to death by its own sibling or parent. Maybe only one was enough for the parents. It seemed very harsh to Vula, but nature is tough. The strong baby birds soon grew fluffy feathers, but different ones from the adult feathers of their parents. Peter started breeding the pigeons and ended up with about 25 homing pigeons. He bought little numbered metal rings from the pigeon club and put them on their legs to identify them and Peter as their owner. In no time, Bob and Peter had a little business going on, as more eggs were hatched and baby pigeons grew up. Peter's friends bought some of his pigeons because breeding pigeons looked like a lot of fun. One day, Peter and Vula were told to clean the cage floor of all the bird poo. They had to shovel the thick, sticky poo off the cage floor into a wheelbarrow, then wheel it to an unused part of the backyard and throw it out. It was good for the garden plants after it dried out a bit. When the bird poo was gone, they used the water hose to wash the floor. The pigeons did poo a lot, and when the cage floor was completely covered, the kids had to get rid of it again. To make sure the birds were out of the way while they cleaned the cage, the pigeons were let out of their cage to fly around. The young pigeons were taken out of their nests and cared for by Vula as she sat on the grass in the front yard, well away from the cage in the back. She had 5 young pigeons in her lap. She looked at them. They were old enough to touch without the parents killing them. For some reason, as the birds got a bit older, the parents didn't mind if humans picked up their young. The children had found out this fact when they picked up a baby off the floor where it had fallen. They put it back in its nest. They had waited to see if its parents would kill it, but they had accepted it and fed it. So now Vula held the babies without fear of hurting them as she lovingly stroked them. She touched their ears and twisted their necks around to see how far they could turn. It was about 270 degrees. Vula started thinking how she could help Peter with his pigeons. Out of the blue, she hit on a good idea. She could train them to be the best, strongest flyers by training them early. Then Peter's pigeons would become famous for being the best and fastest racing pigeons in Hamilton. They would be like super pigeons, and Peter would win his races against Bob's experienced pigeons. Peter would be happy about that, and she would be in his good books. While Peter was busily hosing out and cleaning the pigeon cage, Vula carefully took the baby pigeons off her skirt and onto the grass. She knelt beside them and spoke soft, loving words to take away their fears. Then, one by one, she picked them up into her cupped hands and gently threw them up a few centimetres So far, so good. They would flap their skinny wings, trying to keep their balance. Vula knew that using their little wings would help their muscles to grow. In her mind, she could see them growing up to be super pigeons, stronger than their parents were, and smarter too. She patiently exercised each of the 5 birds, and then she started at the beginning again and repeated their exercises. It was important not to get bored. When she stopped to rest, she found that the birds were looking tired and droopy. She would continue their exercises tomorrow. Too much exercise, thought Vula. Next time I should go slower. As she looked at them, she got very worried because the little birds drooped even more. Finally, one after the other, they stopped breathing. She was in shock. She was scared that Peter would be very sad and angry with her. Perhaps he would hit her. What would he say? Maybe she wouldn't tell him about her exercise classes for the birds, and he wouldn't be upset with her. However, Vula felt so guilty she had to tell the truth to him. She went to find him in the backyard, where he had nearly finished cleaning the pigeon cage. She told him she had been trying to help him to have the best pigeons ever. Then she took him to the grass where she had left the dead birds. When Peter looked at their bodies, he was very sad, and Vula explained she had tried to strengthen them, but it had all gone wrong. Peter was certainly not happy, but he did not hit her, and he did something worse. He told her to keep away from his pigeons. He said she was not allowed to come near them again. Anyhow, that lasted a few days, and then he forgave her. After all, he liked the help Vula could give him with shoveling the bird poo and keeping the cage clean. The next time she got involved with the pigeons was when she heard Peter calling for help. That day Vula was with Mother Cat and her newest kittens in the outside laundry near the pigeon cage. Peter came running in with a white face. "My pigeon is stuck in some wire and she's bleeding. I can't get her down. Do something, Vula." They went to check the situation together. About a metre above their heads was Peter's special pigeon catcher that could invite other pigeons into the cage. They saw that some cage wire had gone through the bird's foot, just above its claw. It couldn't move anywhere. It was held down by the wire in its leg, even though it had tried to get away from Vula as she got near the injured bird. Peter got a pair of pliers, but couldn't cut the wire because he didn't want to see his bird suffer. He told Vula, "Come on, Vula, you can do it. You're tough." She knew this was her big chance to help her capable younger brother. She felt she should not fear failure, but rather fear not trying. She took the pliers from him and climbed up the cage a bit, gritted her teeth, and cut the wire. Peter took the bird. Do you think it's going to live?" he asked uncertainly. This was his favourite pigeon. Vula tried to sound confident. "Yeah, she'll be right." Together with Peter, they held the bird and prepared a bath of water mixed with pink Condy's crystals to disinfect the leg. Over the next few days, the kids watched the bird as it flew about in the cage. The other birds didn't want it near them. It was a great relief when the foot healed, but it stayed swollen, and the bird hopped when it walked on the ground. Peter was very grateful to Vula for her help, and even said he could not have saved the bird without her. He told Vula she had saved the pigeon's life. That was music to Vula's ears, as Peter did not often give her praise. It didn't matter that the bird's leg was unusable because it was alive. Vula had Peter's respect. "This is the beginning of a great friendship with my brother," thought Vula. Do you think she was right?